Good morning, Shwed. We are in Cybertech, New York, currently in Tel Aviv. This is our first meeting since COVID. So how was the pandemic time for you and actually also for Checkpoint?
So first, good morning, everyone, and it's a pleasure being here. I really miss New York. The pandemic time has been a very interesting time. I mean, of course, putting the pandemic, the bad things about the pandemic aside, it's been a real transformation in terms of cyber, in terms of the work environment. The level of challenges that we see in cyber have gone way up. Our entire work environment have changed. And for me personally, it's been a very, very interesting time when I've learned how much we can adapt, how much we can change, how much we can be agile. And I think I'm seeing it not just with Checkpoint, I'm seeing it with the rest of the market. And for cyber specifically, that's definitely put, cyber at the forefront of the technologies that need to power our world.
So actually everything is so different since our last meeting, some time before 2 years. So what are today's main cyber challenges and where does the cloud fit it to all of that?
So we are really in a very, very fast digital transformation, and when everything is moving to be digital, cloud is a very important part of it. The digital transformation and the corona have really, really accelerated the shift to the cloud. On top of that, our entire attack surface has expanded because of the cloud, because of the work from home, which means that things that were never exposed to the internet are now mainstream on the super information highway, accessible to everyone. I mean, whether it's our source code for a development company or the trading systems for a banking organization or the production floor for a factory, everything is now, all of these environments that in many cases were tightened up and closed are now exposed to people working from home and to contractors and vendors that are maintaining them remotely. So that has really changed the environment. And the level of attack keeps growing. We came up with the concept of what we call the Gen 5 attacks, or the fifth generation of cyber attacks around almost 4 years ago. And we envisioned the 5th generation cyber attacks that are multi-vectors, attacks that are polymorphic, attacks that are almost impossible to identify and use a lot of zero-day vulnerabilities. Even when you get something, you don't know what it is because the malicious payload will just be downloaded at the end and you'll never know what damage it will cause. And 3-4 years ago, it was the future of attacks. Now we're seeing it in 2021, that's the mainstream of attacks. So that's a very challenging environment. And again, if you put it all together and put the need to consolidate the infrastructure and to consolidate cybersecurity infrastructure, that puts us in a very, very challenging and a very interesting place in today's marketplace.
And in our last meeting, you have already spoken about the 6th gen of attacks. So anything has been changed in your predictions, or is it the same path of the next threat?
Well, the attack of the day is always changing, and that's by the way why we need to be ready, because we need to be ready for the unknown attack, for the attack that we haven't seen, and I think we've proven that we are ready and we have the tools to prevent those attacks. The world is not there. I mean, let's put it that way. I'm talking about Gen 5. You're already mentioning the 6th generation of cyber attacks. The attacks are moving very, very fast. Most organizations today, their primary means to defend themselves is through 3rd generation cyber attacks, maybe 3.5. I think in 3 years we moved from 3 to 3.5. Most organizations don't know how to deal effectively even with 4th generation attacks. And that's the wake-up call that we all need to deal with. We need to move fast. We need to deal with today's attack. And by the way, that's why we're so much vulnerable. That's why we see this ransomware attack that started small with few $100s from consumers, changing themselves to shut down the oil pipelines in America and demand $60 million of ransom. That's why we see hospitals that are being shut down. That's why we see that with a supply chain attack like Sunburst, tens of thousands of organizations were infected. and the damages or the information that was stolen, it's unbelievable. That's all a result of not being prepared for the 5th generation and maybe to some extent to 6th generation cyber attacks.
So if we stay in 2021, so definitely the supply chain was the biggest threat and the big thing for 2021. What do you see as the biggest cyber threat for just 2022, not beyond?
I think first, I'm not trying to predict the future. What we're seeing is a direction and we need to be ready for them. I don't think that I can say this is the next attack. But clearly we are on the verge of what we call cyber pandemic. An attack that will utilize all these vectors, zero-day vulnerabilities, widespread of bots or infected computers that will all act together and will create a devastating damage. It's clearly there. I mean, we see many bots that are in, sometimes it's tens of thousands of computers, sometimes it's tens of millions. When we see bots that are affecting mobile devices, for example, we've seen bots that hit tens of millions of devices that are ready to be activated. Many of them, by the way, on day-to-day do some ad scams and things like that that have, financial impact and so on, but are not shutting the world down. But we know that the attackers can change in a second the malicious payload to be, instead of something benign, something that can shut the world down. So I think we are in the verge of cyber pandemic. It will happen. Tools that are used by nation-state organizations that have proven to be extremely sophisticated are finding their ways to the hands of any criminal groups and any terrorist groups and so on. And I think that's the number one threat that we need to think about, how to prevent those attacks. And again, I also think that prevention will be the key here. It's not about knowing a day later that you've been hacked. It's too late.
In just a few words, Gil, do you see the IoT development as a threat of itself?
Absolutely. Again, first, the attacks can be on any object or any workload that we can have. And these workloads can be, a serverless function or container in the cloud, and it can be an IoT device that's embedded everywhere. When it can be the projector or the camera or the lighting systems. And by the way, our research team, which is amazing, found vulnerabilities in every single piece of it. You have smart light bulbs, they can be attacked. You have communication equipment, it can be attacked. Things that you can't imagine will be the place where the attack will start can be hacked. So IoT is definitely high on the radar of that. I think, by the way, two of the areas that are less protected today are IoT and mobile. Mobile freaks me out when we all carry these devices. They have all our data, they listen, they see everything we are doing. And personally, on the enterprise side, remember, when this one is in the room, everybody can wiretap your meeting, whether it's not just the data streams and so on. And they also see the data streams, of course, and broadcast them to the public network. And IoT are probably the most underserved market today. Cloud is pretty hot, but still the market for cybersecurity on the cloud, or the level of security on the cloud, is still below the desired level. And I think the existing infrastructure that already exists for many years, like networks and endpoints and so on, they do deploy security software, but in most cases it's not Gen 5 and it's not full prevention mode to the full extent we can provide.
And as the first ever cybersecurity unicorn, how do you see the unicorn trends?
Well, there's clearly, the good part is that there's a lot of innovation in our marketplace. There's a lot of unicorns with billion-dollar valuation, not business size, companies that are growing and bringing new ideas and new innovation. Clearly, there's a huge interest in the financial community that gives this valuation to companies. And I think that's a good thing because it pushes the world to go forward. It challenges everyone, the customers, the vendors, to move forward. From the standpoint of the world of cyber today, it's more confusing than ever. It's more diversified than ever. And I think there will be a phase of consolidation when customers will realize that they can deal with 55 security vendors and they'll have to consolidate on 1 or 2 platforms and maybe few other additional areas that will make them strong. The market will go through some dramatic changes, I envision, in the future, because again, the market cannot deal with thousands of companies in any field, and definitely not on cyber.
So we just have to wait and see. Looking forward to seeing you in Cybertech in Tel Aviv, in person, hopefully in the end of January. Shwed, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.